One night, a woman went out for drinks with her girlfriends. She left the bar fairly late and started to drive home on the deserted highway. She noticed a pair of headlights in her rearview mirror, approaching at a pace just slightly quicker than hers. As the car pulled up behind her, she glanced and saw the turn signal on. The car was going to pass, when suddenly it swerved back behind her, pulled up dangerously close to her tailgate, and flashed its lights. Now she was getting nervous. The lights dimmed for a moment, and then the bright lights came back on, and the car behind her surged forward. The frightened woman struggled to keep her eyes on the road. Finally, she turned onto the exit. The car continued to follow, flashing its bright lights periodically. Through every stoplight and turn, the car followed her until she pulled into her driveway. She figured her only hope was to make a mad dash into the house and call the police. As she jumped out of her car, so did the driver of the car behind her, and he screamed, "Lock the door and call the police. Call 911. When the police arrived, the horrible truth was finally revealed to the woman. The man in the car had been trying to save her. As he pulled up behind her and his headlights illuminated the car, he saw the silhouette of a man with a butcher knife rising up from the back seat. My great-great-grandmother, ill for quite some time, finally passed away after lying in a coma for several days. My great-great-grandfather was devastated beyond belief, as she was his one true love, and they had been married for over 50 years. They were married for so long that it seemed as if they knew each other's innermost thoughts. After the doctor pronounced her dead, my great-great-grandfather insisted that she was still alive. They had to pry him away from his wife's body so that they could ready her for the burial. Back in those days, they had backyard burial plots and did not drain the body of its fluids. They simply prepared a proper coffin and buried the body in its permanent resting place. Throughout this process, my great-great-grandfather protested so fiercely that he had to be sedated and put to bed. Finally, his wife was buried. That night, he had a horrific vision of his wife hysterically trying to scratch her way out of the coffin. He phoned the doctor immediately and begged to have his wife's body exhumed. The doctor refused, but my great-great-grandfather had this nightmare every night for a week, each time frantically begging to have his wife removed from the grave. Finally, the doctor gave in and, together with local authorities, exhumed the body. The coffin was pried open, and to everyone's horror and amazement, my great-great-grandmother's nails were bent back, and there were bloody scratch marks on the inside of the coffin. A young couple, both 18, decided they would get married after they finished high school. The father of the bride lived in Palm Beach in a mansion and was able to afford a big wedding for them. To make a long story short, they got married and the wedding was beautiful. After the wedding, they had a big reception in an old building and everyone got drunk. When there were only about 20 people left, the groom decided that they should play hide and seek. Everyone agreed, and the groom was it. While he covered his eyes, they all found hiding spots. After about 20 minutes, everyone had been found except the bride. The guests looked everywhere and tore the whole place apart looking for her. After a few hours later, the groom was furious, thinking that the bride was playing a terrible trick on him. Eventually, everyone went home. 2 weeks had passed, and the groom filed a missing persons report. He was heartbroken and felt useless. 3 years later, a little old woman was cleaning up the old building where the reception had been held. She happened to be in the attic and noticed an old trunk. She dusted it off and, out of curiosity, opened it. She screamed at the top of her lungs and ran out of the building and called the police. Apparently, the bride had decided to hide in the trunk for the game of hide and seek. When she sat down, the lid fell, knocking her unconscious and locking her inside. She suffocated a day or so after. When the old woman had found her, she was rotting, her mouth hanging open in the shape of a scream.